Hello guys, I'm Dada, and welcome to another review. This time we have Hannibal Season 1, Episode 5. And what an episode, really cool, really big twist at the end that I kind of spotted out, but it was still a pretty good twist, and it really kept the show interesting. So far I've been really enjoying Hannibal, and this episode did not let down. Really great. I think it really continued the streak of awesomeness that this show is carrying forth with every episode. And really, I just cannot wait for the next episode to come out. But before I get into the meat of this review, I just want to let you guys know that it does contain spoilers. So if you do not want to know what happened in tonight's episode, go back and watch it, and then you can come back to this review. So, let's get right into it. Right off the beginning, we see this man in a psych ward. He's on the floor, he's not moving, and his name is Dr. Gideon. Now, we don't know who he is or anything, but obviously he's in a psych ward, so he's messed up somehow. But police officers go in, restrain him, and they find out, oh, there's something wrong with him, he's bleeding, blah, blah, blah. They bring him to the medical, ward of the psych building, and so this nurse is there, putting on the cords and everything, putting for the pulse, doing normal nurse stuff. And all of a sudden, he gets up, and without a sound, right behind the nurse, she turns around, and that's where that scene ends. We don't know if she killed him or not, but yeah, we find out in about 5 seconds that he did kill this nurse. So, of course, Jack and Will go to the scene of the psych ward, and they talk to basically the guy in charge of the psych ward. So he's sitting there, and he's, they're asking him questions, about this guy, when did he come in, about Dr. Gideon. And then the psych ward, the guy that's in charge of it, he says, Will, you're quite the talk around this psych circle, about how you act and what you do. And of course, this is from Freddie's post on her blog or whatever, because now the information's out about this guy, Will Graham. He's like this crazy guy that works for the FBI, blah, blah, blah. So now it's getting around, and this is apparent to Will at this point. Anyway, he killed the nurse, and he actually ripped the nurse's eyes out, actually kind of pushed them in. There's blood all over the place, and they go see the kills where, the scene where she got killed, and there's multiple rods, skewered through her body, tons, and it's really disgusting. So then at this point, Will does his little voom voom thing, even though we don't see the voom voom, and he kind of puts himself into the shoes of the killer. So, and it's really cool because they replay the whole scene from the beginning, but instead of Dr. Gideon, it's Will. So we see him in his little, in the little stretcher, bring him down to the medical ward, but it's Will. So it was really cool to see it kind of switched up like that. I thought they made that scene really interesting. It really caught my attention right when it came on. So after that little scene, they kind of figure out that, well, this guy, Dr. Gideon, he's killing very similar, almost exactly to the way a known serial killer that disappeared was killing. And the serial killer before is named the Ripper, and they think that he is actually the Ripper, and because he killed the exact same way, and because, when the Ripper disappeared, it was 2 years ago, and 2 years ago, Dr. Gideon was put into the psych ward. So they're saying, okay, this kind of matches up, this guy must be the Ripper. But Will has his doubts, and he doesn't think it's the Ripper, because, one thing that really puts it aside is that, after Dr. Gideon killed the nurse, he impaled her with all this different poles and stuff, while the Ripper was known to actually impale them while they're still alive, because he wanted to watch it, basically. So that's a really big difference, and Will's like, this guy, I don't think he's the Ripper. So at this point, Jack stops by at Hannibal Lecter's little institution thing, not institution, but his little office, and they talk a little bit, and he seems really upset. Jack's really upset. He's angry. He's worried about his wife. He doesn't really know what to do. And the main thing is, she has cancer. She's kind of putting herself further and further away from me. I want to know what's going on, but she doesn't want to talk about it. And he actually tries to get information from Lecter, but he's like, no, I can't, because I can't say anything the patients, tell me. There's a little agreement there. But yeah, so we can see Jack's really upset, and I think it's really clouding his mind right now because, he has all this things to be worried about his wife and all this, and he still has to work on these cases. So I think it's really clouding his judgment. And at this point, Hannibal says, okay, you're worried about that you can't save your wife. Who else couldn't you save? And this time we get a flashback. So it was like basically one of the first flashbacks of Hannibal, and it's when Jack's younger. It was 2 years ago, and a trainee comes into his little office, and Jack wants this trainee, and the trainee's name is Miriam. He wants her to actually go on the case to try to catch the Ripper. And of course, this is 2 years before the events of this episode, but yeah, so he wants actually her to try to catch the Ripper. So this plays a big role in what happens later, but we'll get to that when it comes. Now, Will is trying to, like, figure out everything, and he basically says, I see the Ripper in this guy, but I don't feel the Ripper. And that's a big thing to say from Will, because, well, it's his job to kind of figure out this, and he really doesn't think it is, so Jack's kind of saying, okay, maybe this isn't the Ripper. Then all of a sudden, Jack gets a call on his cell phone, and it's a call, and when he answers it, it's Miriam, and he's like, what? I thought you were dead. And the message just says, help me, I don't know where I am, help me, Jack, and it just ends. We find out that the Ripper actually recorded Miriam before he killed her, and apparently he's playing it back and calling Jack. So at this point, Jack's like, okay, well, this cannot be, Dr. Gideon cannot be the Ripper if he's calling me. How could Dr. Gideon call me if he's in the psych ward? So he's obviously saying this cannot be the Ripper. Dr. Gideon cannot be the Ripper. So then they need a plan to try to kind of figure out what's going on here. Like, is Dr. Gideon the Ripper or is he not? So this is what they come up with. They go up to Freddy, the journalist, and basically they want to lure the Ripper out. So they tell Freddy, we'll give you an all-access interview with Dr. Gideon, put it up, say he's the Ripper, and all this stuff, so that it kind of angers the Ripper to bring him out and do something else so they can try to catch him. So they actually do that. So Freddy goes and interviews him. She puts up an interview, blah, blah, blah. And at this point, Lecter is looking at this interview, this article that Freddy put up on his little iPad tablet thing we've seen a couple episodes ago. But, and he's looking at it, and he seems very angry. We don't know why, but we find out later. Then Jack talks to Gideon at this point. He goes in to tries to talk to him. And Gideon brings up Miriam. So at this point, it's like, okay, wait a second. He knows about Miriam, and he even says, oh yeah, I killed her. I didn't want to, but I had to. So at this point, it's like, well, Dr. Gideon knows a lot about the Ripper. He knows how he killed people. He executed someone the exact same way. He's telling Jack about events that only the Ripper would know about. So, this has to be the Ripper. But again, Jack and Will both have their doubts and say, you know what, I do not think this is the Ripper. So then Jack's phone rings again, and he looks at it, and it says, oh, home. So he's, okay, it's Bella, it's my wife. So he picks up the phone, and again, it's Miriam on the phone again, the same recorded message. So at this point, Jack's really freaked out, like, okay, well, the Ripper's in my house now? He's sleeping where my wife sleeps? Like, what is this? So they go to his house and they kind of, investigate, and they find fingerprints on the phone, and they find a piece of hair on the bed, and it's all points to Miriam. It's Miriam's fingerprint and hair. So they're trying to, mess with him and think that Miriam's still alive. We don't know if she's still alive, though. Maybe she is. Maybe the Ripper's been holding her for 2 years. We really don't know. But it's really affecting Jack at this point. He's really conflicted. Is Miriam alive? He really doesn't want to think, though. He wants to kind of just put it in his past, and that's it. So yeah, then we go back to another flashback, and Miriam's talking to Jack, and she's saying, I got to look through some files because I'm assuming that the Ripper's is in the medical field. If we look at the files of these people in the medical field, we can kind of maybe spot something out. But Jack says, we can't do that. It's can't do that confidentiality, so can't do that. And so now Miriam has to kind of look for another way to find some info on these people, and she does. But that's the next flashback. We'll get to that in a minute. So after that, we're back in the present, and Lecter, Dr. Hannibal Lecter, is actually having dinner with Alana and the guy that was in charge of the psych ward. And they're eating, and all of a sudden, Lecter pulls, the psych ward guy to the side, and he talks to him and says, basically I'm much more forgiving on unorthodox measures than Alana here. So he really wants to talk to him. And at this point, I was like, wait a minute, is this the psych guy, the Ripper, or something? Like, does Lecter know something that we don't know? He does, but not the way I was thinking. And I think he's just trying to get information out of him. But after that, Jack gets another phone call. This time it's from a disposable phone, so they can track it. So Will, Jack, and Anna go to the scene where they track the disposable phone, and they find the phone in a severed arm. It's just an arm cut off, and the phone's in it, and a note's left there, and the note says, "What do you see?" So again, it's kind of pointing to Gideon, but at the same time, how can Gideon be doing this? Then, one of the last scenes of this episode, Jack goes back to Dr. Hannibal Lecter, and they have like another little session, and basically he's saying, why do you think the Ripper did this to you? Like, what is he trying to pull? And Jack says, I think he's just trying to cloud my mind with hope, trying to make me think that Miriam is still alive. And basically, Lecter says, don't give up hope for your wife either, though. And so that kind of brought up a kind of emotional moment for Jack. But there's another flashback, and this is probably the craziest flashback of this episode and most exciting point of this episode. This is in the past, and it's Lecter's office where they are right now. And Miriam actually goes to Dr. Hannibal Lecter's office, and she goes in and says, I need to talk to you about one of your patients. And it's actually one of the victims of the Ripper. And she just asks him, like, but when you were in the medical field, he came to you at an ER, and you, like, fixed up a scar he had. Did you, notice anything fishy about him or anything? And he says, well, I don't really remember, but I have a journal that I kept at that time. So if you want me to go get the journal, I'll go get it. So Miriam says, okay, yeah, that'd be great. So Lecter goes, and Miriam just gets up and, walks around his little office, and she comes across some sketches that Hannibal Lecter did, and of course he's known for his sketches. So she looks at them, and it's actually the body of one of the Ripper's victims, and exactly how she looked at it with Jack, because Jack asked Miriam to look at one of the bodies to see if she can find any clues, and it was the exact same thing. All the, the skewered poles are in the exact same spot in this victim guy, and she realizes right away, wait, this is one of the Ripper's victims. Like, what is this guy doing here? Like, how does he know that? So all of a sudden, we see Lecter coming out in the distance, and he goes right up to Miriam and just chokes her. So at this point, everything points to Hannibal being the Ripper. So, and again, the first couple episodes, there was a copycat that Will didn't know who it was, Jack didn't know who it was, and we knew it was actually Hannibal. And yes, Hannibal is a killer. He's not just a copycat, but they labeled him the copycat. So yeah, so now we can kind of think that, wait, is Hannibal the Ripper now? It's pointing to him. And at this point, we don't know if Miriam's alive. Maybe Lecter did keep her alive. We really have no clue. But, obviously she's probably dead, but, who knows. Yeah, that was basically the whole episode, guys. I thought it was pretty great. I really like the show. It always keeps me at the edge of my seat. And I love how they're bouncing between Will, Jack, Lecter. It gives it a lot of material, and it really keeps me interested. So, and I do like all these killers, the Ripper, Angel Maker, really cool and really disgusting at the same time. So, the show's not for the faint of heart, but I'm really enjoying the show. What do you guys think? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And I just want to say thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for more content. Thank you, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.